Whenever discussions on important military matters become difficult or seem impossible, refer to the first chapter of the whole book of this text for clarity. It will give you a deeper understanding, helping you overcome doubts and uncertainties. This is where Ferdowsi's insights on warfare and leadership can help solidify the concepts and tactics discussed. Those who have led armies firsthand know that simply studying military practical experience cannot make one a military commander, no matter how talented or intelligent. Theoretical knowledge must always be combined with real-world action to develop true leadership. Ferdowsi was certainly proficient in horsemanship during his youth. It was essential for every military leader in ancient Iran to master it, as horsemanship was considered one of the key army skills. Ferdowsi expresses this in his poetry, mourning his loss of this ability in his old age, saying, "In the springtime, my hands were on the reins, but now in my old age I must use a staff instead." This metaphor of exchanging the reins for a staff symbolizes the transition from youthful strength to the weakness of old age. It signifies Ferdowsi's acceptance of his physical limitations in old age, while his intellectual capabilities, especially in military wisdom, remained sharp. Ferdowsi's Shahnameh was not only a national epic that revived the greatness of ancient Iran, but also a military manual with detailed strategies for warfare. For example, when Ferdowsi discusses the influence of Sultan Mahmud, he implies that his poetry offers timeless lessons for military commanders. Look, this book will forever be remembered. Even the greatest kings will respect it. In another section, he discusses the hardships he faced in his own life and reflects on his experiences with warfare, strategy, and leadership. Ferdowsi used specific terms in his Shahnameh to describe various military weapons, strategies, and formations. Weapons, sword, bow, arrow, and defensive gear such as armor, shields, and coverings. Tactics. He describes the need to understand the terrain, mountains, deserts, rivers, and the types of enemies, like wild beasts and mythical creatures, faced in battle. This detailed approach shows Ferdowsi's deep understanding of the technicalities involved in war and military leadership. The influence of Ferdowsi's work on later generations was profound. Ferdowsi's military leadership principles influenced many later militaries, including European generals. The techniques and strategies found in Shahnameh were not only used by Ferdowsi's warriors, but may have also been passed on through military scholars and strategists worldwide. Ferdowsi's strong military spirit is evident throughout his poetry. Even in moments of peace or reflection, he often reflects his deep military mindset. For example, he invokes military imagery in describing wine or the night, illustrating that Ferdowsi's thoughts were always attuned to warfare, even during seemingly mundane moments. Ferdowsi's brilliance as a military strategist is evident in his interaction with other poets. When challenged to respond to verses about beauty and love, he immediately adapts the metaphor to military strategy, referencing a well-known commander, Give, as an example. This shows how Ferdowsi's thoughts always return to the realm of warfare, even in seemingly unrelated contexts. The text concludes with a statement that Ferdowsi should be considered one of the greatest military commanders. His work, Ferdowsi's The Eternal Laws of War, much like modern military doctrines. Ferdowsi's work is not just literary. It provides detailed military strategies that continue to be relevant today. This emphasis on the practicality and applicability of Ferdowsi's strategies should make the audience feel the immediate value of his work. Ferdowsi's insights into leadership, warfare, and military tactics are timeless. Even after 1,000 years, his strategies still provide valuable lessons for modern commanders. His work reflects a deep commitment to leadership philosophy, blending military theory with a profound understanding of human nature and the world around him. This enduring relevance of Ferdowsi's work should inspire a sense of respect and admiration in the audience. The role of the king and royal worship. When explaining the rules of royal worship, Ferdowsi also touches upon the discipline and rituals of serving the king. He forecasts the possible events and provides instructions on how to handle them. When you receive his favor, make an effort. Let his virtues spread throughout the world. If you are near him, do not change your behavior. Be a servant who does not seek to harm him, for the king's secrets should remain hidden. And if you turn away from him, do not criticize. He also emphasizes the importance of respect for the king and his authority. Do not hold back in your service, for if the king's wrath falls upon you, make amends. Do not speak ill of him before others, for those who speak falsely will lose their honor. The king is a metaphor for the sea and fire. Ferdowsi compares the king to the sea and fire, portraying the king's power as both nurturing and destructive. A ruler, he claims, is like the sea that nourishes the land, but also can destroy it. Like the sea, the king is both life-giving and devastating. His strength is in his hands like fire, both useful and destructive. He is the one who holds the world in balance. Ferdowsi's Iranian patriotism. Ferdowsi advocates for the greatness and independence of Iran throughout the Shahnameh. For example, he laments, "It is a tragedy that Iran should be ruined, for our lands are filled with enemies. It is not the time for peace. The battlefield is the true home of the warriors." In another part he writes, "My soul belongs to this land. May no one live here who does not care for it." This verse reflects Ferdowsi's deep attachment to the land of Iran, a sentiment that does not need further explanation. He also conveys the importance of unity among the Iranian people, showing their unmatched bravery and valor in comparison to foreign enemies. None are as brave as the Iranians, for the battlefield is their true home. Our strength is in our unity. We fear no enemy. In numerous passages of the Shahnameh, Ferdowsi portrays the bravery of Iranian soldiers. For example, he describes the courage of the Iranian forces during a battle. Fierce warriors take to the field. Their hearts are strong. Their arms are swift. None can match their skill in battle. Ultimately, Ferdowsi presents royalism as the key to Iran's strength and sovereignty. He believes the nation must rally behind its king and embrace the king's rule as the guiding force for the future. He concludes by saying, "Serve the king with honor, for his rule will protect us all. Without the king, the land will fall, but with him, we will rise again." The text delves into the significance of different terms used in the Persian military, such as Jushan, armor, Sanan, spearhead, Gorza, war club, and many others. Understanding these terms is not just about knowing the language, but it's a key to unlocking the strategies and tactics used by soldiers in ancient Persian armies, making you more informed and knowledgeable about Persian military history. Persian values and leadership. Several sections highlight the importance of discipline, leadership, and patriotism in battle. The text emphasizes warriors' duty to protect their homeland, uphold honor and respect commands from their leaders. Role of the army. The text frequently discusses the essential role of the infantry, considered the backbone of Persian armies. These soldiers, often overlooked, were the first to engage in battle and were crucial in offense and defense, as they were highly disciplined and skilled in various battle strategies. Understanding their role will make you appreciate their contribution to Persian military history. Heroism and honor. The text references various heroes like Rostam and Esfandiar, highlighting the ongoing celebration of heroism in Persian culture. These warriors were often expected to demonstrate immense bravery and strength, sometimes even at the cost of their own lives, for the greater good of their country. Their stories will inspire you with the courage and sacrifice of these warriors. Patriotism and national pride. Many parts of the text discuss patriotism, urging warriors to fight for the glory and preservation of their homeland, Iran. The importance of the nation's history and values is a key aspect of Persian culture, as reflected in these writings. Famous historical events. The Shahnameh contains numerous references to battles and conflicts involving legendary figures, and the text you provided references some of these key moments, including fighting between Persian and Turanian forces. Leaders. The term Turan, plural of Sar, is a significant concept in Iranian military history. It refers to the leader or commander of an army, the chief or head of the military. The role of the Turan was crucial in shaping the strategies and tactics of the army, and their leadership often determined the outcome of battles. Warriors. The term Gordon, plural of Gord, refers to brave warriors, heroes, or fighters. These individuals, through their courage and valor, inspire awe and admiration. Paymo. In the context of Iranian military history, Paymo refers to a famous region in India and Turan, the name of the ruler of that area. It could also mean a signet ring made of gold, silver, or other metals. The significance of this term lies in its association with the rulers and regions that were often involved in military conflicts with Iran, shaping the country's military history and culture. Az means greed or avarice. Iran's leaders and army. The Persian military, a symbol of discipline and strength, was composed of elite warriors, often depicted as highly disciplined and strong, exemplifying Iran's glory. The warriors are armed with spears, and their horses are armored like mighty mountains. The mountain ranges are made bare by their advance, their names engraved on the seals of kings. The soldiers wore shields and armor like the ones worn by heroes in battle. They were warriors against lions, tigers, and beasts of the wild, striking terror into the hearts of enemies like demons or serpents. Glosses Jushan. This is armor, typically referring to body armor made of interlocking rings, which is different from standard iron armor. Lakta. This refers to a severe type of armor. Bara refers to preparing oneself for battle or the armor one wears. Yazid used to describe someone brave, like a hero. Rustam's battle with Esfandiar. An illustration of how even heroic combatants, who were of equal valor, were required to fight with full commitment. Their horses' actions were significant. When Rostam's horse was victorious, it was a sign of the superiority of the Iranian army. Patriotism and Iran's glory. In many parts of the preservation of the homeland is a central theme. Heroes sacrifice themselves for the land, even when facing personal loss. Look at this distinguished army, ready to fight for the land and their children. Everyone is ready to give their life for the cause. Better to die for the homeland than to hand it over to the enemy. I would rather face death than see my country fall into enemy hands. The importance of discipline and leadership. Discipline in the military forces described is a cornerstone of victory. Even when faced with overwhelming odds, a disciplined army maintains its position and continues the fight. A key event. The king of the land immediately ordered the execution of a royal hunting falcon after it was captured for disobeying orders. This act was meant to show that no one, not even a falcon, was above the law. The Battle of Devazda Rock is one of the significant battles described in Persian literature. It focuses on strategic placement, leadership, and tactics used by both sides, Iranian and Turanian forces. This includes detailed positioning of troops under the command of leaders like Gudarts for the Iranian forces and Turan for the Turanian army. Strategy: Iranian forces were positioned on the high mountain ranges, whereas the Turanian army was placed in the flat deserts, where no preemptive actions could be made. Each army leader forbade their troops from acting prematurely and set up for a face-to-face clash. Discipline of the Iranian army: this restraint and discipline eventually led to success. The Turanians, lacking discipline, broke ranks, whereas the Iranians stood strong. Patriotism in the context of war. Fighting for Iran. The warriors of Iran, when faced with the greatest danger, are always willing to sacrifice their lives for their nation. Better to die for the homeland than live in dishonor. This sentiment is echoed by the famous Persian warriors and poets, including Ferdowsi, who highlighted the relationship between the land's well-being and the people's loyalty. The infantry, the backbone of the military, was responsible for initial engagement and defending against enemy attacks. The text emphasizes this, highlighting how foot soldiers, also known as payade, were crucial in both offensive and defensive strategies. Their key role in initiating battles and defending the army made them indispensable, underscoring their significant contribution to the war effort. The foot soldiers are the first to charge, taking positions to ensure no enemy advance before them. The valor of foot soldiers was highly respected, and they were known as the true heroes of the battlefield. Foot soldiers endured immense hardships, advancing on foot across difficult terrains to engage in battle. Their efforts were often described as the foundation of the army's success. He hurled his bow across his shoulder and cried out, "O warrior who tests his might, who laughs in the face of battle, who stands defiant and unmoved." The foe smiled at him and asked, "What is your name?" The hero replied, "I am Timur, known for the death I bring." The enemy retorted, "Without your horse, you are nothing." Timur responded, "Did you not see me fight in the plains of Shir and the forests of the lions and whales? Now you are an infantry soldier sent to challenge me." The enemy soldier, now on foot like me, became confused. Rostam, wounded by Sohrab's might, fell to the ground and said, "From the battle horses we descend, the mighty steeds now cold and still, like lions we locked in a desperate struggle, our souls filled with pain, blood spilled from us both." The cavalry, which held a special place in ancient armies and bore the bulk of the battle's weight, appears throughout the Shahnameh, especially when speed is critical. Ferdowsi often employed it in situations requiring swift action, whether in pursuit or siege, placing cavalry on the flanks to envelop the enemy, as seen in several historical battles. In the Battle of Antioch, when Anushirvan faced off against the Roman forces led by Euphorbius, Ferdowsi describes how the cavalry played a central role in the pursuit, using their speed to break through the enemy's defenses and strike quickly, just as a lion pounces on its prey. In the battle with Bahram Chubin, Ferdowsi elaborates on the strategic use of the cavalry to surround and outmaneuver the enemy, with swift riders prepared for action manning the flanks. He also details how the Romans, seeing their defeat imminent, resorted to every available resource to stand firm against the relentless Persian onslaught. Siege warfare. Ferdowsi speaks at length about using siege equipment such as the trebuchet to break fortified positions. Defenders rely on these machines to launch stones and arrows over the walls. He also highlights the role of these machines in successfully capturing strongholds like the one in Shurabad, where Anushirvan used them to breach the walls and conquer the city. Strategic use of siege weapons. In the assault on Shurabad, Ferdowsi describes the towering fortifications and the strategic use of siege machines. The Persian forces set up their manjanik on all sides of the fortress, breaking through the defenses, while the enemy was overwhelmed by the relentless barrage of projectiles. He illustrates how the collapse of the fortifications marked the end of the resistance and the city was taken by storm. Conclusion of the siege. Ferdowsi illustrates the moment when the fort was finally breached, as the skies darkened with the dust of battle. The enemy, shaken and defeated, had no choice but to surrender. The siege was a triumph of strategy and technology, as the siege machines, under the leadership of the skilled commander, tore down the walls and paved the way for victory. The mounted cavalry played a significant role in ancient armies and is frequently referenced in Shahnameh, especially when speed was required. Ferdowsi often employed the cavalry when describing battles or pursuing enemies. Cavalry was typically positioned on the flanks when discussing military maneuvers, especially encirclements or rear attacks. For instance, when describing the pursuit of Ferdowsi's army by the cavalry in battle against Fars, he writes, "The cavalry moved with agility, swiftly closing in on Ferdowsi's forces, much like a powerful tiger hunting its prey." The role of the cavalry in encirclement. In many Shahnameh accounts, cavalry is also described as playing a crucial role in surrounding enemy forces, allowing for better control of the battlefield. During battles such as Anushirvan's, the cavalry would maneuver around the enemy, cutting off their retreat routes. This strategic use of cavalry is described as essential for victory. For instance, in describing a battle between Anushirvan and the Romans, Ferdowsi writes, "With the swift gallop of the cavalry, Anushirvan's forces managed to close the enemy into a tight corner, just like a lion trapping its prey." The mounted cavalry in various phases of battle. The mounted cavalry's role was not just limited to quick strikes or flanking maneuvers, it also involved strategic use and maintenance. For example, the cavalry led the charge in the battle where Ferdowsi's army confronted the invaders. In several epic depictions, cavalry forces are shown to symbolize decisive action. In describing the struggle between Rostam and Sohrab, Ferdowsi highlights the role of the cavalry in charging forward, breaking through the enemy's defenses and bringing victory closer. The narrative explains. The cavalry, with their powerful steeds, rushed forward with relentless force as they tore through the enemy's front lines. Cavalry's role in defeating larger forces. Ferdowsi's narrative also underscores how cavalry can turn the tide even when outnumbered. In one example, Ferdowsi's forces, despite being significantly outnumbered, used their cavalry to overwhelm the opposition, scattering Rustam's forces in all directions. The passage reads, "Though their numbers were fewer, the cavalry's speed and strength ensured that the enemy was overwhelmed, retreating in disarray." The use of siege weapons. Ferdowsi also discusses the role of siege weapons such as trebuchets, called manjanik in Persian, in breaking enemy fortifications. These weapons were crucial in siege warfare, especially in battles among fortified cities. For example, during the conquest of a well-defended fortress, Ferdowsi writes, "With the power of the trebuchets and catapults, they bombarded the fort's walls, breaking them down and allowing the forces to breach the gates." The role of engineers and siegecraft. When discussing the sieging of strongholds, Ferdowsi emphasizes the importance of the engineers and their expertise in siege warfare. These professionals designed and operated the heavy machinery to break through the defenses. One of the most notable examples is the siege of the fortress by the army of the great Iranian king, Khusro. Ferdowsi's description highlights the intense pressure placed on the fortifications. The engineers worked tirelessly, constructing catapults and trebuchets, sending large stones hurtling towards the walls until the enemy could no longer withstand the barrage. The cavalry and the final assault. In a final assault on a heavily fortified position, Ferdowsi portrays the cavalry again as the leading force, providing the final push to break the siege. During the defense of the fortress at Shorab, when all hope seemed lost, the cavalry launched a decisive attack. Ferdowsi's narrative vividly captures the charge. The cavalry surged forward with such force that the walls trembled. The defenders had no choice but to surrender, overwhelmed by the might of the advance.